When I watched her, I had a really strong suspicion that I was looking right into the eyes of a psychopath. I'm Trey Tucker, I'm a mental health therapist, and this is Rugged, where we're making your 20s and 30s legendary. Now today, I'm taking a deep dive into unknown number, all right? So a buddy of mine, one of my best friends, texted me and said, hey, you gotta watch this show. And he told me just the explosive reaction that he had, but he didn't want to give away the spoiler ending. And I'm going to give you the spoiler alert right now. If you haven't seen it, you just need to watch it and then come back, because I don't want to give it away unless you're okay with me giving it away. But stay with me if you have seen it, because here's the thing. When I watched that show, in the middle of the episode, when they revealed who it was that was texting, I have never felt so much rage and confusion and just a stomach drop in my life. I thought I had heard everything. I mean, as a therapist, I tell people that there's really only one thing that I'm sure that I haven't heard, and I can't even say that on YouTube, but everything else, I thought I had heard it. But this one shocked even me, and I'm really hard to surprise. So, but I wanted to scream at the television. It was just the level, all the mixture of emotions. I just could not believe it. And so I texted my buddy in all caps the reaction I had, and I've called other people and talked to other people. I've not had a show affect me like that, maybe ever, because this crime, what Kendra did, was just, truly indescribable. So here's how we're going to roll with this. I'm going to talk through her today. I'm going to make a separate episode about Lauren, and then a separate episode about Owen, Sean, and maybe Chloe and some of the other characters, or some of the other people involved. These aren't characters, these are real people. So today we're diving into Lauren. And I'm going to start by first, we're going to talk about her body language, and then all the different things that they rubbed me the wrong way even before the reveal happened. And then we're going to talk about how she did it and some of the psychological tactics of manipulation that she was using. And then I'll get into why she did it, why I think she did it. And then finally, we'll have some wrap-up points about, like, what does this mean for you? What can you actually take away and make your life better from this, or learn from this? So that's what we're going to do today. So let's dive in. So even before they revealed that Kendra was the one sending the messages, her body language was giving me the wrong kind of vibes. Now, I didn't expect that she was going to be the one, but I wondered if there was something, maybe just something kind of immature or kind of off in her, just based on the way she was presenting. And I'll tell you this, I'm not going to diagnose her or anybody that I've never met, because I'm not their therapist. I'm going to show you the things that I notice and the things that I would be more curious about to dig deeper into if I was sitting with somebody like this. So these are the things that I noticed. She presented herself as kind of this, or at least she wanted to present herself, I think, as just the typical good old housewife that is kind of happy-go-lucky and smiling. But I noticed that her body language, it was almost like she was doing it too much. She came across childlike. She came across as physically kind of out of it, not sharp. And then also almost like she was trying to come across as happy, almost like just nothing affects me kind of body language. And I just wondered, well, what's up with that? So for example, her mouth was open almost all the time. I went back through and watched it again, and every time she would talk, when her mouth wasn't actually speaking, her mouth was just open. And there was only one or two times that it was actually closed, and I'll put that on the screen for you as well. But her look when she has her mouth open versus when she has her mouth closed, it's a drastic difference. She looks, in my opinion, when her mouth is closed, you can see there's some darkness in those eyes. Versus when her mouth is open, she kind of has that childlike, almost immature look to her going on. So I don't know that she's doing that on purpose. That she may be. I mean, there may be that level of a diabolic strategy, but there is a drastic difference between the way she comes across. Mouth open, mouth closed. Also, her eyebrows were often up in the middle. And a lot of times when you raise your eyebrows up in the middle, it kind of gives you this hopeful, approachable, friendly vibe, versus if the outsides of your eyebrows are raised up, it gives you more of an intense kind of don't approach me look. But again, I'm not saying she was doing these body language things with her face on purpose, but they definitely sent a certain message. So that body language, it also to me showed there was a neediness. There was a need for something. And I couldn't figure out what it was as I was watching the documentary until it was revealed that she was the one. But I could tell that she needed something. She was looking for something to fill a void in there just based on the facial expressions. And as I put all this together and I listened to the fact that when she said when Lauren was born, something lit up inside of her. I think there was something like she said a spark ignited inside of her or something, just that level of joy. And that's normal for a parent to say that. But knowing her history, I think at that moment she thought, Lauren, my baby, is going to be the one that fixes me, is going to be the one that fulfills these voids or heals these wounds that are inside me. And I think from that moment, I would ask her, is this the thing that you thought was going to actually make you everything you wanted to be or make you feel the way you wanted to feel? And if it was, then I could see somebody really wanting to control that and somebody making sure that all the outcomes were going to happen the way that she wanted to. And she even said, maybe I did this because I wanted to control her outcome. I was so afraid for her. And we're going to get to maybe the motives of this, but I think that's when the enmeshment probably started. Because if you think, whatever you think your solution is, or whatever you think the thing is that's going to fix you, you're going to make sure that above all else, you hang on to that nothing else gets in the way of that. And I could see maybe that in that attempt to use her child as her salvation, I could see some mistakes happening from that. I think plenty of parents have made some level of mistakes in that type of direction toward enmeshment. Now, this does not excuse what she did. All I'm trying to say is I could see where maybe that was the original thinking and like, I've got to do everything I can to control everything that happens to her because she's my salvation. Now, she should have dealt with that on her own. She should never have looked to a child as that. If that's what she was actually thinking, that's on her. She should have worked through those wounds way before she ever got married, much less had a child. So this is never an excuse. It's never any sort of attempt to explain that away. I am saying maybe this was where that whole process got started. And that enmeshment showed up big time when the police came to confront her to let her know that they had the evidence against her. Because when Lauren was sitting there next to her and it was clear that she was going to have to be separated from Lauren, she went over and started hugging on Lauren and rubbing her and holding her hands. And it was one of the most disgusting things I'd ever seen in my life. And I wonder if Kendra was actually trying to comfort herself, just to use that bodily contact with Lauren as a way to soothe herself in that moment instead of actually trying to soothe Lauren. And we'll get to that horrific moment in a second. And I'm going to do a separate episode about Lauren and the body language she was showing. But that was the moment I wanted to puke, is when the truth was coming out and it was revealed that she was the one causing so much horrendous pain on her daughter. And then she had the nerve to go to her daughter and pull her close. I mean, I can't even mention the things that I felt and wanted to do in that moment. Just hideous. So I think that enmeshment, she got so used to Lauren being her source of comfort, her source of identity and salvation, that she was using that hug to her own benefit instead of looking out for her daughter, which she always should have been. And even before Lauren came in the room, when the police were just confronting Kendra, she was fidgeting. She looked helpless. Again, she was kind of looking away, like it was hard for her to make the eye contact with the police. And all that stuff, that tracks when we're feeling guilty about something. But it also shows this is the fact that she didn't have a plan, that she admitted to something so quickly and really looked helpless in the moment. That can be a sign of narcissistic behavior and psychopathic behavior, because there's not a real plan once they get caught. If they just keep on doing it impulsively, and then there's no real plan for, okay, if the actual evidence comes out against me, they don't think that far ahead. So the fact that she just admitted to it so quickly, that part showed a lot, I think. And then also there was the request of her asking them not to tell Lauren, like total break in reality there, just in total denial at that point. And again, another point of potential narcissism is like, I don't want to lose this child because it's about me and it's about my comfort and about my happiness. So that takes us to section 2, and that's how she did it, or what were the psychological tactics that she was using to fool everybody. Because not only did she fool the town and her daughter and Owen, she was also fooling her husband. I mean, her cousin said she was lying to her husband for probably 10 years or more about everything, about finances, about the fact that she saying she had a job and she didn't. So how does somebody get away with something like that? I'm still amazed by it, but I'm less surprised by it now. So I know 2 separate married couples who each of them had a spouse who it got revealed that they were totally lying about everything that they were, basically everything but their own name. So in one case, it was a husband. In another case, it was a wife. And each of them had totally lied about their background, really what state they had grown up in, what their family situation was like growing up. Also lied about, one of them even said she was a doctor. And there was a lot of evidence for that. But then it turned out after they got married, turned out the whole thing was a lie. She was never a doctor. And I don't know how somebody has the mental capacity and the mental bandwidth and energy to pull off a lie for that long at that grand of a level. It's just mind-boggling. It's frankly a version of like evil genius, because there's a lot of capacity in there that could be used for good, but instead it's aimed at something evil. And so it's obvious Kendra was working really hard to fool all these people. So here are some of the psychological tactics that somebody like her in that situation would be using. The first one of these is minimization. And when you minimize something, you're deflecting the blame. You're sort of accepting some of the blame, but then you're saying, well, it wasn't really that bad because of this, that, and the other. In the most egregious example of minimization that Kendra was showing us was toward the end of the documentary, when she's basically trying to explain like how she felt about what she did. Here's the quote that she says. She said, "Every single one of us has made mistakes. Not a single one of us has lived a perfect life," right? I'm going to pause right there. I'm going to read more in a second. But okay, that right there, which direction is the spotlight pointing? She's not pointing the spotlight at herself. She's pointing it out. Somebody who is humble and mature and actually has high character, they're going to take ownership. They're going to be like, I did this. I messed up. In Psalm 51, David even says, look, it is my sin and my sin only, and against you have I transgressed. It's full ownership. So more of the quote here. She said, so not a single one of us has lived a perfect life. Everyone's made mistakes. It's just, it's shifting the blame. She also says, and realistically, a lot of us have probably broke the law at some point or another and not got caught. Okay, so yes, you might speed or whatever, and we're going to get to that, the rest of that quote. But what she's trying to do is say, well, what I did is okay because you all did it too. You all broke the law too. I just got caught. So right there, it shows she's not upset about what she did. She's upset about the fact that she got caught. Another assumption going on in there is that, well, because other people break the law and they don't get caught, that makes it okay. That makes it right. Or that makes what I did okay as well. It's twisted thinking, but this is the type of thinking that goes on. And then if you have close proximity to that person, they have this way of manipulating things and making you think that their way of thinking is actually the sane way, and that you start questioning your own sanity. And that's one of the points of gaslighting. So if you see it from a distance, you think, well, how can anybody fall for that? But if you live with somebody like that and they wear you down and chip away at your own sense of the truth, that manipulation can really get deeply hooked into you. And obviously it happened to Lauren as well. All right, more of this quote. "I'm sure people drove drunk and not get caught, but if you get caught, you're in the same situation I'm in, but for a different thing." So it's almost like this subtext of her saying, well, don't judge me because you've done just the same kind of situation. You've done the same thing. Like, no, this is not the same thing. She said, I know to some, I'm a villain, I'm a bad mom, I'm a whatever, but that's because that's just a piece of my story. They don't know my whole story. So I'm going to pause right there. That is image management, and it shows it's a trait of somebody who is often labeled as a psychopath or a narcissist or more. But the idea is that they get so obsessed about how they look to other people that they've got to manage every detail about what they say, how they look, what people think about them. It's this obsession with the impression that they're making. And this is a sign or an example of that. I don't know Kendra's specific situation, but there's a whole lot of minimization going on, assuming that she's hoping that everybody in the audience will see her in a different light. And I'm just going to say it. She made a mistake by being interviewed. That did not help her case at all. There were articles that told about why she agreed to be interviewed by Netflix. And she basically said it was for my daughter, which that makes me puke, and so that people could hear my side of the story. Well, usually if you're going to tell your side of the story, it's going to actually help people to see you in a better light and to give you a little more credibility. It backfired. It did the exact opposite. You can also see her desire for people to see her in a good light when there was a point when the reporter suggested, like, well, maybe you were sending these texts ultimately to yourself, calling yourself these names because you thought these things about yourself. And you could see this expression of this light goes off in her head like, oh, yeah. It was almost like she was happy to have another excuse to make herself seem a little bit more like the victim because of the things that had happened to her in the past. So all these angles, along with the minimization, she also looked at deflecting. She also tried deflecting to the police officers. Like early on in the documentary, before they revealed that she was the actual culprit, she said, yeah, the police could have done a better job. And like, well, yeah, I guess you knew exactly what they should have been doing because you were the one that was trying to stay ahead of them. But it was classic deflection of like, well, these other people, if they had done better, then maybe this could have been avoided. It's just another sign that these types of folks, they're pretty good at getting things their way to make the outcomes happen in the way that benefits them. And her last tactic was creating a crisis that forced Lauren to lean on her. And that's the fancy term for that is cyber Munchausen by proxy. It's when you create in the history of the term, it's when you basically make somebody physically sick in order to become their caregiver and have them be forced to rely on you and lean on you. In this case, she took it to a whole new level by creating such an emotional crisis in Lauren that she got to be the hero. Every day, Lauren would come home and be upset about the messages, and Kendra would get to be the comforter and the consoler. And just dark and evil. It's beyond words. And the third segment is, here's why she did it, or at least the reasons I think she did it, along with some of the other hypotheses of other people. And we're going to get into some of the reasons why Kendra herself says she did it. So I think it's a combination of three things, and we're going to go more deeply into them. But first, I think she had some sort of an attraction to Owen. Number two, she wanted to be that hero for Lauren because of this pathological need for attention and the fear that something would happen, so that level of control turned into this darker, twisted version. And then three, there's some level of sadism going on here where someone enjoys causing physical or emotional pain in somebody else. Okay, I think the biggest reason, because again, I think all three are part of the reasons, but the biggest one is she had this need for attention and this need for Lauren to continue to be her emotional savior and to fix her. So early on, Kendra talks about some of the stuff that happened to her in the past. And I don't know if that it's SA, we can't say it on here, but I don't know if that actually happened to her. But if it did, that actually is a major, major, major trauma. But again, it's on her to deal with that. She should never, ever have let it spill over into her life the way that she did with her daughter. But if that did actually happen, I could see where then you think your daughter is going to be the thing that fixes you. And then you realize that nothing like that, your child can never be the one that fixes you. So then nothing's good enough. No level of control is good enough because you can never determine an outcome. It's a myth. And so you grip tighter and tighter. And then you start thinking, okay, well, if she goes out with guys, then maybe the same thing that happened to me might happen to her. So I got to make sure that I protect her. And then I could see maybe the twisted thought of I can protect her by sending these texts to break them up. And the ultimate goal of playing the hero of keeping my daughter safe from these guys that might do this thing to her that happened to me. It's twisted, and I'm not saying I fully understand it, but I'm just trying to piece what might have happened together in there. But if that's the thinking, then at that point, she's going to do everything she can to keep everybody away from her daughter because anybody might be a threat. And if you listen closely, especially in the early part, her friends, Lauren's friends say, she really didn't talk about emotions or important things much. It sounded like she didn't really hang out with friends very much. Lauren was, she only wanted the times that she hung out with Owen to be just the two of them. There's a lot of indications here that Kendra got Lauren used to just being isolated. But I think what really started the texting, if you look back early on in the documentary, what really started the texting was when Owen brought Lauren to a dance or to a party, I think it was, maybe a Halloween party. And at that point, I think in Kendra's mind, maybe that Lauren ending up in that party was going to be just such an unpredictable environment and such a break from the norm of keeping her isolated and keeping her quote unquote safe that I think she probably started resorting to these horrible, horrible tactics all under the guise of I can't let something happen to the thing that I think is going to keep me sane or keep me emotionally comforted or fulfilled. And the other part of her story that at least she claims was an influence on why she did this stuff, she claims some of that stuff from her past. And here's the quote. She said, "I was somebody different in those moments, the moments where she was sending the text. I was somebody different in those moments. I was in an awful place mentally. It was like I had a mask on or something." Now, I can see that actually being the case in somebody like that because if you look at it through a lens of internal family systems, IFS, it's a type of therapy. It's actually really effective. And the idea there is that we're made up of parts, and these parts cause emotions to happen. They push us towards certain actions. And so I can see where she probably did feel like there was a part of her that was really pushing it, almost like taking over to the point where maybe she didn't even feel like herself at that point. Now, again, it doesn't excuse it, but it could be kind of a behind the scenes or behind the curtain look of how this stuff went down. Another piece of this puzzle is during the court appearance when she was apologizing, she said, "Look, I've recently discovered that I have a mental illness. I was in crisis and I didn't know it." So this is the story she's constructed for herself and the story she decided to tell. But again, we don't know if that's really why she did it. It could be just that attempt to make herself look good again, to get pity. She even said, her cousin even said, look, she loves attention. That if she were standing over here and you were interviewing me, she'd be dancing over there just to try to get you to look in her direction instead of mine. She also said to the interviewers when she started crying and explaining, giving her side of why she did this, she goes, "Oh, you guys are going to think I'm the crazy lady." And that's when she was crying. So that may have been coincidence. I don't know. But I found it really interesting that one of the few times that they showed her crying was her talking about how other people were going to perceive her as crazy. So that could be another indication that maybe we can't believe everything she's saying because, again, it may be more about her image and her attempts to get pity. And with the other two possible reasons, maybe her attraction to Owen, maybe even an obsession with Owen, along with the sadism, it could be that there's some delusion in there where not logical at all, but the thought was if I can somehow break them up, then somehow I get Owen to myself. And I don't think there's ever any plan after that. Again, that goes back to some of that the traits of a psychopath. It's just the next step, and then the next step it's hardly ever really thought out the whole way through. So I could see where an obsession clouds somebody's judgment in such a way that they just keep on pursuing the thing that they're obsessed with. So that could have been the case. And of course, the documentary goes into that. Owen himself thinks that was the case. He talked about all the different ways that she would go overboard, cutting a steak for him and offering to help him with too many things and showing up at games that he was playing in that had nothing to do with Lauren even after they had broken up. So it's clear that there was something going on there at some level of attraction or obsession. And then with the sadism, this one, when there's, I hate to even explain this one, but there is a condition, and it used to be in the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistics Manual. It used to be a personality disorder where you actually get satisfaction from causing someone else to suffer. And there has to be some level of that going on in there because every day with the horrific messages that she was sending to her own daughter, telling her to do certain things to herself and exposing her to probably terminology she had never been exposed to before. And then to see the emotional and effect that was having on her daughter, there had to be something in there that was enjoying causing that kind of suffering. And a lot of times there's this concept of hurt people hurt people. In other words, if somebody's carrying around pain, that pain is going to come out onto other people. Now the sadism is just a exponentially high, inappropriate way that happens, but I can see that at least being at least a little bit part of the mix. And I'll add this. I believe there's at least some level of spiritual warfare going on in here, because in every case that I've been involved in where thoughts of ending your existence by your own hand have come into play, the people, each one, have always talked about, if it's their own thoughts, they've always talked about the voice telling them to do those things does not sound like their own in their head. And you can read about this on your own, but there is often a level of spiritual warfare or some level of satanic connection that works its way in to put those thoughts in somebody's head. So is that a factor here? I don't know, but every other time where I've seen that issue, that's at least partially at play. All right, and just to wrap up, a couple other thoughts about Kendra here. One of the most disgusting parts that I saw was when they were showing the text that Kendra would send to Lauren from prison. And one of the texts was where she was mad at Lauren for only saying goodbye and not saying I love you. Just more of it's about me, meet my needs. You exist in order to make me happy and to give me love. Just more evidence of how she was using Lauren. And then also, one of her explanations for why she did this, and again, she claimed other people started the texting, that she just somehow jumped into the mix of the group text and started sending them herself to try to maybe be like a double agent and figure out how to stop this. I don't believe that for a minute, and Lauren says she didn't either. But again, it goes back to her need to feel like she's the hero, to manage her image in such a way that people feel like, well, I understand why she did it, or I have pity for it. Like, that's what she's hoping for. I ain't buying it. Okay, a couple quick takeaways. I hope nobody ever has to encounter this type of person in real life, but it does underscore the importance of, when you're dating somebody, take your time. I need you to see them over a long period of time. I need you to see them in a bunch of situations around a bunch of different people. I really need you to see them go through something where they don't get their way. I need to see that a lot, where they don't get their way. How do they respond to that? How they respond when trials come, when difficulties throw them off of the path that they wanted to be on. What's inside them? Because any kind of difficulty is going to crack us open and reveal what's already in there. It might shape us a little bit, but by the time you start dating, it's really going to do more revealing than forming. So take your time. Watch with your eyes. Please don't let the chemicals of infatuation and excitement put a blind spot over you, or start causing you to call a red flag a pink one, as my buddy Tim Ross says. I need you to look at the whole person in a whole bunch of situations over a long period of time. And another thing, when you're dating somebody, lean on your closest people, lean on their opinions, because they're going to be more objective than you. They don't have those ooey gooey chemicals going on, so they can see more clearly what's happening. And one of the quotes, I think it was from maybe Chloe's dad, he said, look, Kendra, I thought it was her, maybe her the whole time, because she's not a truthful person. Somebody else from the outside is probably going to be able to see some traits in the person you're dating a whole lot easier than you will. Now, and my goodness, I know it's hard to listen to people that try to tell you some things to watch out for about the person you're dating. And I so wish I would have listened to those people in my life when I've been dating girls that they had some concerning traits, and that I would just avoid them, or I would ignore them, because again, there were so many things to like, and I just swept them under the rug, and I didn't listen to the people who were trying to warn me. So please do yourself a favor and lean on the people that care about you enough to bring up something tough, like a potential concerning trait about somebody you might be dating. And finally, watch out for charm. Charm can be deceptive. The strongest people aren't the ones who can just push through people and fake it when they're going through something tough and make it seem like everything's okay. The strongest people are the ones who can withstand the pressure without losing their integrity. So zoom out and see, okay, who is this person when things get tough? Yeah, when the good times are good, the good times are always good, but I need you to pay more attention to how do they handle things when it's not the good times, when it's the difficult times. Who are they then? This case took the whole nation by storm. It's the #1 show on Netflix right now for a reason. So this was just Kendra, and I'm fascinated by all those aspects. I have just as many aspects about Lauren's situation that I'm just as fired up about. And so join me on that one and let me know, what are your thoughts? Maybe I'm totally off base on some of my thoughts in the Kendra situation. So let's make this a two-way street and let's keep going forward. I'll see you next time.